So can I get started? Your Honor, ministers, members of Parliament, and the Legislative Assembly, Mayor Kennedy and guests. My name is Carol Lee, and on behalf of the Vancouver Chinatown Board and Trustees, good morning and welcome. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we come together today on the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. We thank them for welcoming us to live, work, and learn within their ancestral lands. Partnership and perseverance, those are the words that have been used to explain how we got to this amazing day. It is wonderful to finally have our whole partnership here in full force. I want to say how honored we are to have the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, here on behalf of the federal government. And she is joined by Dr. Hedy Fry, member for Vancouver Centre, who I'll introduce in a few moments. Minister Freeland and Ms. Dr. Fry are joined by representatives from the province of British Columbia and the city of Vancouver, who we will hear from later in the program. But first I want to acknowledge from the outset of today's proceedings, CMHC, BC Housing, and the city of Vancouver, as we have spent the past several years working side by side to bring this project to life. You have truly been our partners. We also have with us partners of another kind, the 58 West Hastings Community Partners. This is a unique collection of businesses and organizations in our city who have committed their resources and time to help create a community at 58 West Hastings that we hope will be a model for other social housing initiatives across the country. Your willingness to share our vision and help the community of 58 West Hastings with life skills and mentoring, nutrition and wellness, and provide cultural and sporting experiences in our wonderful city has exceeded our wildest expectations. Beyond the residents, the project will be a benefit to the entire community through Vancouver Coastal Health's 50,000 square foot integrated health facility. We are proud to be partnering with VCH to bring a number of much needed services to those living in the downtown east side. The truth is, the partnership part of today's announcement would never have happened without the perseverance of so many. The board and trustees of the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation, the vision of Henry Fung, and my late father, Bob Lee, who said Chinatown will be much stronger if we help our neighbors in the downtown east side. Members of the advisory board and our incredible donors and volunteers, many who are here today, who have helped us raise close to $30 million to help make our vision a reality. I also want to thank our architect wing, our project managers, advisors, and the BOZA organization for everything you've done over the past many years. The perseverance shown by each one of you and is the reason we stand here today. Social housing is needed now more than ever. The Vancouver Chinatown Foundation has a vision to create affordable housing and accessible health care in our neighborhood that would be more than someone's home. Right here where we stand is the start of a community, friends helping friends, a place of healing where both young families beginning their lives will thrive and seniors in their sunset years will find companionship. There will be a little bit of everything here at 58 Hastings, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Again, thank you all very much for being here. I would now like to call on a pillar of our community and a steadfast supporter of our work in Chinatown, the member for Vancouver Centre since 1994, a wonderful champion for Chinatown and the people of Vancouver, our good friend, Dr. Hedy Fry.
Thank you so much, Carol. But people like me don't get to do the things we do unless we have people like you pushing us every single day and making us remember what we are about and what we have to do. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. Et merci d'avoir pris le temps de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. My name is Hedy Fry. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver Centre, and I am absolutely beside Carol in the absolute importance of this wonderful announcement. I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. It is my pleasure to welcome Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland to this beautiful city of ours. I must tell you that if you see the Energizer Bunny on television, you are seeing the Energizer Bunny here. Chrystia is my friend. She's my colleague. She is a fantastic person, but none of us, not a single one of us, can keep up with her when she gets going. She just keeps going and going and going. I'm also thrilled to be here alongside my counterparts of the province, Attorney General Eby, Minister Mark, and my municipal counterpart, Mayor Stewart. And of course, Mayor Stewart and I have decided today that we've got to stop meeting like this. We have been meeting over and over on housing announcements virtually, and yesterday also literally. And so I think people are going to be talking if we continue to meet any more than this. Now, and of course, Carol Lee, who is the wind beneath the wings of this whole project. She has been strong, vibrant, and pushy. Today is an exciting day for Vancouver. C'est un grand jour pour Vancouver aujourd'hui. Like many of you here, I see firsthand the housing issues in our area. Every day I speak to my Vancouver Centre constituents and to people in the rest of the city, and one of their top concerns is housing affordability. They tell me that having a home they can afford makes all the difference in their ability to raise their families and plan for the future. Tous les jours, je vois de mes propres yeux les problèmes liés au logement de notre ville. J'ai eu l'occasion de parler à de nombreux électeurs de Vancouver Centre. Ils disent que leur principale préoccupation est l'affordabilité des logements. Ils me disent que le fait d'avoir un logement dont ils ont les moyens de se payer fait toute la différence dans leur capacité à élever leur famille, à planifier l'avenir et à vivre dans la dignité. Today's announcement brings us one step closer to addressing the concern and making a difference for the people of Vancouver. You know, just on Monday, I was standing alongside my colleague Ahmed Hussein and the mayor of Vancouver, and we just announced a major some announcement for Vancouver, the city of Vancouver to get $31.8 million to build about 68 new housing developments, because what COVID showed us was that there was a huge gap, a huge chasm in our social infrastructure, and people were falling through. So it's wonderful to see another significant investment of our government and with all the partners, because this is the way it should be done, with partners, and because we can get a lot more done. And I want to say it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, my colleague, and the Deputy Prime Minister and the first female federal Prime Minister of this country, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland. Thank you, everyone. Merci. Bienvenue. I'm getting out of this.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Hedy. Where is Hedy? Thank you, Hedy, for that kind introduction. You know, people in Vancouver know Hedy as a powerful champion of her constituency, of this amazing city. And I do want to take a minute to salute Hedy as also a brave and pioneering Canadian woman in politics. She has really blazed a trail that has allowed others to follow. So thank you so much, Hedy. And I do, yeah, let's say yay for Hedy. And I really also want to recognize the tremendous work that Carol Lee does and has been doing. I'm going to call her persistent. And I want to say it is persistent women who get things done in Canada. So bravo, Carol. It is great to be here with Mayor Kennedy Stewart, who is a really important partner for me and our federal government, and with Ministers Eby and Mark. I really think that the number of federal, provincial, municipal, and community leaders here really shows how affordable housing in general, and this project in particular, is a Team Canada effort and priority. And I have to say, just spending a few minutes here this morning, I feel that I am almost at a family event. I have met Carol's mother, I've met Melanie's mother, I've met Hedy's son, and that was in 3 minutes. So bravo to the families and the community that has made this happen. I really think great things happen when all of us, you know, from our kitchen tables outward, work together on important projects like this one. And I have to say, I feel privileged to be able to be here in your Vancouver family on this important day. So thanks for allowing an Easterner to be here with you. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. Since the start of the pandemic, our government has done whatever it takes to support Canadians and to fight COVID. As of yesterday, Canada has now reached a vaccine milestone. There are 66 million doses of vaccines in Canada. That is enough to fully vaccinate every single Canadian who is eligible for a vaccine. And I want to say Canadians are fantastic. We are the most educated country in the OECD, and I think that shows with the level of enthusiasm Canadians are showing for getting vaccinated. Over 80% of Canadians have received a first dose, and 64% are fully vaccinated. But that's not enough. We need to get everyone who is eligible vaccinated. So I want to start by saying, if you are eligible for a vaccine and you are not yet vaccinated, please go out and get your first dose. If you have your first dose but not your second one, please go out and get your second dose. I am glad to have had 2 doses of vaccine. Everyone in my family is double vaccinated, apart from my 11-year-old son. He turns 12 on Sunday, and somewhat to his distress, he is celebrating his birthday by getting vaccinated. And that's what we all need to be doing. And I say that as someone who really cares about Canadians. I want us to all stay healthy. But I also say that as your finance minister, because high vaccination rates mean we can continue what is already a robust economic recovery. In April, our government released a recovery plan focused on jobs, growth, and resilience. A long-term plan for growing the Canadian economy must include a plan to build housing that is affordable for all Canadians, including the most vulnerable. And that is essential because our recovery must be an inclusive recovery if it is to be successful. The pandemic has both underscored and worsened the housing challenges faced by far too many Canadians. It should not be impossible in Vancouver or in any city in Canada to find an affordable, safe place to live. But for too many Canadians, that basic human need is a challenge. And that's why I know everyone here shares a common goal. I think every single person here is committed to ensuring that every single Canadian has a safe and affordable place to call home. Today is a really exciting day for Vancouver because we have great news when it comes to housing. So I am very proud and privileged to announce that our government is investing $45.8 million to support the construction of 231 affordable housing units right here in Vancouver's downtown east side at 58 West Hastings Street. Thank you, Yvonne, for leading the cheers. This means that 231 Vancouverites and their families will have safe homes where they can build a better future as we emerge together from this crisis. Homes that are affordable, accessible, energy efficient, and close to support services, and in the heart of a vibrant community. Alors, c'est avec fierté que j'annonce que notre gouvernement investit 45,8 millions de dollars dans la construction de 231 logements abordables au 58 West Hastings. Cela signifie que 231 personnes de Vancouver et de leurs familles auront un logement sûr, abordable, accessible et vert, où elles pourront se bâtir un meilleur avenir alors que nous nous remettons de la crise pandémique. Federal funding for this development is being delivered through the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, which funds projects that help those most in need. This fund is a key pillar of our national housing strategy. That's a 10-year, $72 billion plus plan to meet the housing needs of the most vulnerable Canadians. Now, our government recognizes that the recent and rapid rise in housing costs is making housing unaffordable for many Canadians. It is making housing unaffordable for those who are the most vulnerable, but also for middle-class Canadians and for people working hard to join the middle class. The people of Vancouver know this all too well, and actually your mayor, Kennedy, and I have had some really valuable conversations about further measures that collectively we can take to address the housing needs of Canadians. I want to talk a little bit about how focused we are on housing. In the speech from the throne, we committed to eliminating chronic homelessness. In the budget in April, we committed an additional $2.5 billion and reallocated $1.3 billion to speed up the construction and repair of 35,000 affordable housing units. And in a pioneering move, and I want to say here that your province and your city have really led the way, we announced that our government will introduce Canada's first national tax on vacant property, which is owned by non-resident, non-Canadians. That tax will come into effect on January 1st, 2022. It is our firm conviction that houses should not be passive investment vehicles for offshore money. They must be homes for Canadian families. I'd just like to conclude by, again, congratulating everyone involved in this incredible project, the province of British Columbia and BC Housing, the City of Vancouver, Vancouver Coastal Health, and the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation. And now it is my privilege to introduce BC's Attorney General, Minister Hedy. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Minister Freeland. Let me begin by recognizing we're on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, and it is a great honor to join you here today on around a really exciting announcement for this neighborhood in particular. Let me begin by recognizing the Lieutenant Governor, Janet Austin, is here with us this morning. And also how wonderful it is to do an in-person press conference. I had kind of butterflies coming. I was like, what are butterflies? Because this is my first in-person press conference for a long time. So it's an honor to be here with you, and very grateful to the efforts of the federal government and our provincial health authorities and all British Columbians for your work and your continuing work in response to COVID to control infections in our province. I've spent some time working in this neighborhood. I learned a lot when I was working here from the people who live here, and it really informed a lot of how I approach politics now. But one of the people that I really learned from was my wife was a public health nurse at the Rainier Hotel, and about the importance of primary health care, not just housing, but primary health care for people who are in real distress. Including people who have been homeless for a while or who are struggling with addiction or mental health issues. The work of public health nurses in this neighborhood is nothing short of heroic, even in non-COVID times. And I want to really recognize, Carol Lee, her work here and the Chinatown Foundation's work to pull together this coalition. I know that there's not a person like Carol Lee in the world unless there's strong parents behind them, supporting them and in what they do. And Lily Lee was a public health nurse in this neighborhood and really understands the importance of that primary care for people in this neighborhood. Just things like if you have a wound, making sure that it doesn't get infected. Just if you've got a flu or a cold, that you're treated with dignity and respect by a nurse who can hear what you're saying and respond in the context of your whole personal health history. And so I'm thrilled that we're building housing. I'm the housing minister. I'm so excited about that on this site. 120 units, $33 million from the provincial government to match the federal contribution, and operating funding for this housing. But what I'm really excited about is the 50,000 square foot coastal health facility, the integrated facility that is going to be on this site. Because housing is one critical piece, and you heard Minister Freeland talk about that quite eloquently, how people need shelter, they need that essential protection and a place to be that's theirs. And the 111 families that are going to be living here are going to really benefit from that. But just given the fact that Lily Lee is here and the legacy of Bob Lee and the efforts of her remarkable daughter, Carol, I just really wanted to recognize the work of public health nurses in this neighborhood and how instrumental and heroic they are in responding to the needs of the community and how important this facility is going to be and how the vision of Lily Lee through her daughter, Carol, to realize the 50,000 square foot Vancouver Coastal Health Facility that will serve this neighborhood, how important that is and how critical that is. And I wonder if we could all just give a round of applause for Lily and all the public health nurses who make this neighborhood a healthier place. I would like to thank very much the federal government for their commitment to Vancouver and to British Columbia, and I want to assure you, Minister Freeland, you have across Confederation, you have a province here that is a committed partner to the federal government. In addition to the money to build this site, when you put the provincial operating money into it, we've committed $141 million to this particular site to be a good partner to the federal government. When they're putting money into infrastructure in our province, we are the committed partner that you're looking for, whether it's childcare, housing, healthcare, you name it. So keep this in mind. And I'd also like to thank very much Mayor Kennedy Stewart for the work of the city. It is critical to have a partner at the municipal level to deliver housing, and Mayor Stewart, you've done a very good job on this project. It's a very exciting day for the city and a very good day for the neighborhood. Let me thank all of the members of the Chinatown Foundation who helped bring this together, the chairs of the fundraising committee, and the commitment of the Chinatown Foundation to the next door neighbor, the downtown east side, is a commitment to community that's really inspirational for all of us, and I'm very grateful for those efforts. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. On behalf of Premier Horgan, let me bring my best regards from the provincial government to everybody who was involved in this project. I know there are so many people. I met Henry, whose vision was key to this project, and others. I'm sure I'm missing lots of people because something like this doesn't happen with just one person, although Carol is an incredibly inspirational person. She pulled together a remarkable coalition of folks who delivered this. Thank you to everybody. Have a wonderful morning. I might be in a little trouble with my colleague about this. I'd like to turn things over to Minister Mark. She's an inspirational person to me personally as an elected official. She has very deep roots in the community. As Minister Freeland noted, her mom is here to cheer her on today. Minister Melanie Mark.
Yeah. No, I think it's okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Simgaget, Siguramanak, Gibit Wiltuk. My name's Melanie Mark. My Niska name's Lahaikwaskak, and I'm very proud to be the MLA for Vancouver Mount Pleasant and the Minister for Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport, Tax. It's a beautiful day, and just to acknowledge the unceded traditional homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Before I give my remarks, I just want us to look back at this mural. And it says, "There is no one to care if you do not care." Minister Eby mentioned that my mom's here, Carol's mom's here. My mom lives right here in the downtown east side. The service providers that go to work every day, the success champions, the BC Housing champions, and all the other champions here in the community that support our neighbors, that are there, as Minister Eby talked about, to give them care and love. I was telling Minister, it's so great to have her in our riding. The downtown east side has a lot of grit. It's faced a lot of challenges, but there's so much love in this community. There's so much strength in this community. And the idea we keep hearing about partnership, 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 I always say it's the triple word score. If you're a Scrabble player. It's us coming to the table, everyone bringing their checkbooks, bringing the potluck, bringing whatever it takes to bring housing. I want to acknowledge Jenny Kwan, who's here. I want to acknowledge all the champions that have been fighting. This has been a decade in the making. This didn't happen overnight, and I love Carol. Anywhere Carol goes, I'm right with her, because she's moving and shaking, and she's doing things that are for the best of this community. So I'm always proud to be able to stand in this place at this moment in time. I'm the only First Nations woman to ever get elected in BC's Legislative Assembly. Change happens when you step up and you're persistent and you push the envelope. And the saying that I always have is we have to paddle together. And the more we paddle together, the farther we're going to go. But sometimes people overlook the beauty of this community. And people can't get medical, jobs, education, childcare, all the supports to succeed and thrive unless you have a home. So housing matters. I'm very honored to be here with everyone. I just want to thank all of the visionaries, the partners, the fundraising chairs that went out there and hustled to get more money. It's all about the money. It's the Jared Maguire, show me the money type of day. But it's a really good day for my community and my constituents. So thank you, Hawa. I would like to, we're doing this, sorry, we're not used to events anymore. We're not sticking to the program. This is a family reunion. I'm distracted. I'm seeing so many lovely faces. And now, without further ado, I would like to announce and invite my colleague, Mayor Kennedy Stewart, to come to say remarks. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is a very big day. It's a big day for housing, for this neighborhood that we all love, and for the entire city. The 58 West Hastings project is one of the largest and most innovative social housing projects in our city's history. And when it's built, it will stand as a powerful example of what is possible when we all pull together towards a common goal. The federal government, the provincial government, the city, and the community working together to build a more resilient and a more inclusive Vancouver. I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister for coming here today, for Minister Eby for their tremendous support for this project, and you've heard the numbers behind it, but it's also the will that's behind it at in these sometimes large organizations to make these individual projects happen, and I just want to thank you so much for all the work. Your governments understand the need to build housing in this community and right across our great city, so thank you. As we tackle the housing crisis, you've stood with us, shoulder to shoulder, every step of the way, and I know you'll continue to do so, so thank you so much. I want to thank everyone at the city for their tireless work as well, all the staff involved, and we have two councillors here today. We have Councillor Pete Fry and Councillor Kirby Young, so I want to thank them for all their efforts too on council. Lots of housing to build, and this is a huge project we're all proud of. I'm so proud to be mayor of this city that's dedicated to this, that I think is a turn in the corner in terms of providing for folks, and we're doing it on council, but only in partnership with the two senior levels of government. I really want to give my most special gratitude, though, to Carol Lee and everyone at the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation. You made this possible. Your tenacity, we've heard persistence, but I'll use tenacity today, and your vision led us to this day, and I know it's going to see this project through to completion. The Vancouver Chinatown Foundation represents what's best about Vancouver. At a time when we are all confronted with enormous challenges, the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation devotion to a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable community is truly inspiring, so thank you so much. I just want to say a few words about what it says about our fight to build a Vancouver to work for everyone, what this project says about our fight to build a Vancouver that works for everyone. This housing crisis affects us all. It's the biggest single challenge this city has faced in generations. And how we confront it will shape Vancouver for many generations to come. The stakes are very, very high. But projects like 58 West Hastings and so many others we have started over the last few years are proof that we can and we will meet this challenge. Proof that when the community leads and governments invest, good things happen and good things are happening. Through the partnerships the city has forged, we're closing in on $1 billion in new housing investments. And just this week, the federal government announced tens of millions of more in additional funding for the Rapid Housing Initiative. So thank you, Minister Freeland, and thank you to Ahmed Hussain, who's been an exemplary housing minister and fantastic to work with. We've reached an historic agreement at the city to renew leases for co-ops on city-owned land that will greatly expand access and affordability. We've championed the moderate income rental housing pilot project that locks in low and affordable rents for buildings approved under this initiative. And over the last 2 years, we've approved more rental housing projects than ever before. So much has been accomplished. With Ottawa and Victoria's ongoing support, combined with the vision of the community, like we see here today, because that's essential, we're turning the tide on this housing crisis. And make no mistake, though, the journey has only begun. Much work lies ahead. And as we break ground on this incredible and transformative project, we need to keep the momentum going. We need to get the job done. So thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, ministers. Thank you, Carol Lee. Thank you to the Vancouver Foundation, Vancouver Chinatown Foundation, and thank you everyone for being here today. I gotta say, when I read this speech this morning, it wasn't the speech, it was the project. I just got goosebumps. I met Carol. The first event I attended as mayor, she pulled me and the premier aside and said, this has got to get done, and now it's getting done. I have goosebumps now. This is so incredible. I just want to thank everybody so much for everything they're doing. Thank you.
We can't hear you. Testing. Okay. All right, we'll now turn to the media portion of the event. We'll take one question, one follow-up. Media, welcome to go to that microphone right over there.
Yeah.
Hello?
We got the shade. Yeah.
Good to go?
Hi, Minister Freeland. You talked about the need for more affordable housing in the Lower Mainland in the last year. The benchmark price of a home has increased by 18%. It's at record highs here in Greater Victoria, whether you look at detached homes or apartments. Is it this government's hope to see the average price to purchase a property reduced?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I emphasized the importance of housing to Canadians and to the Canadian economy in my remarks quite intentionally. I agree with what Kennedy said. Housing is one of our preeminent economic challenges today. It is a challenge in the Lower Mainland. It is a challenge in Victoria, and it is a challenge in cities and towns across Canada. Our government's commitment is to ensure that all Canadians have an affordable and safe place to call home. Now, that includes very significant investments like the one today in housing for the most vulnerable Canadians, but it also includes a recognition that middle-class Canadians and people working hard to join the middle class are also increasingly facing challenges with housing. I don't believe there is any one solution to the housing challenges that Canada, BC, the Lower Mainland face right now. There is not a single magic bullet. But I think actually what we're doing today shows that we're all moving in the right direction. I think to solve Canada's housing problems, the first thing we need is, I loved what Melanie said, we need to paddle together. Housing is not a challenge the federal government can solve on its own. It's not a challenge that cities can solve on their own. It's not a challenge that provinces and territories can solve on their own. We all need to be working together. That is part one. And part two on solving housing is we need a diversity of solutions. We need to work hard on affordable housing. We need to work hard on rental housing. Kennedy mentioned co-ops. I am personally a big fan of co-op housing, having lived in a co-op, so that's another area we need to focus on. But there are a lot of Canadians who want, for whom their dream is to own their own home. And we need to be sure that we have policies in place, including on the supply side, to ensure that Canadians who want to buy a home and who work hard can do that.
Follow up on a completely different topic. You spoke earlier about Canada's vaccination rate. The UK government announced today that fully vaccinated travelers from the EU and the UK will not have to quarantine when entering England, but that won't apply to travelers from Canada. What do you think of the UK decision, especially when Canadians have higher vaccination rates and lower rates of infection?
In general, and maybe particularly during COVID, I have a great deal of respect for every country's sovereign right to decide during COVID who can come into the country and on what terms. What the Government of Canada is responsible for is Canada's borders, and we're making decisions about Canada's borders for Canadians and for non-Canadians that are very much driven by the health of Canadians. And I just can't resist putting in one more plug for everyone, please, to go get vaccinated. There is truly no more important policy in the whole country. There's nothing more important for public health, and there is no more important economic policy than everyone who is eligible going out and getting a vaccine. Please.
All right, next question. Question question.
Minister, Vancouver Chinatown is a major tourist attraction. So, but now it's dying because of the pandemic. Many shops closed during this pandemic period. So will the federal government consider to give the Vancouver Chinatown some funding to help them to revitalize?
Well, thank you for the question. And I actually first met Carol over Zoom in a conversation about Vancouver's Chinatown and what we can do to support it. As a member of Parliament, my Toronto constituency includes a significant part of Toronto's Chinatown. So I am a big champion of Vancouver's Chinatown and of Chinatowns across our country. They're such an important part of our multicultural country and, as you say, a real tourist attraction. I would point to the fact that the federal government throughout the pandemic has offered unprecedented levels of support to businesses and to Canadians, and that very much includes the businesses of Vancouver's Chinatown, the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, the CEBA loans. These have been lifelines. And I know from my conversations with Carol that the community hasn't always been fully aware that these programs exist and that you just need to go out and apply for them. And so I want to take a moment to salute Carol's work in being sure that there is a central place in Mandarin, in Cantonese, for people to understand what the federal government resources are. And I do want to point out that those business support programs, they are still around. The budget, according to the budget, those programs are in place until September 25th. We have the authorities to extend them further. And for Chinatown businesses, I also want to point out there is a Canada Recovery Hiring Program. If you're reopening now, as people start moving around the country more, take a look at this program. It can cover up to 50% of additional wages of new employees that you're taking on?
Yes, you have subsidy, but the Chinatown never qualified to apply those subsidies. So what do you think about it?
Well, respectfully, I know that there are many, many businesses in this community who have qualified. I know that there were some challenges for people in being aware of the programs, and that's exactly where I mean, today seems to be like Carol Lee's celebration day, but very early on in COVID, Carol and her colleagues recognized that there were great programs available for Vancouver's Chinatown, but that resources had, information about those programs had to be made available in Mandarin, in Cantonese, and Carol worked hard to do that. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Carol.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something?
Next question.
And you can ask questions of people other than me if you want.
Okay.
Are we done?
If there's no further questions,
Okay.
that concludes today's press conference. Thank you so much, everybody.
It was a slam dunk. That's why. Great work.
That was amazing.
Good job. Amazing.
Thank you
Amazing
so
work.
much.
Good job.
Guys, we need to go in the shade.